Welcome to the latest edition of the Giants Hangout, presented by Crestron, a proud partner of the New York Giants. This is a special bye-week edition. Normally, we recap the previous game, and we also look ahead. We're just obviously going to look ahead to the final 5 games, and it's Lance Medow, Russ Salzberg, Howard Cross, and Matt Citak joins us as well. Why? Well, Howard demanded that he had 3 people to disagree with over the course of this episode, and we made sure that we would appease him as we look forward to the final 5 games. Gentlemen, looking forward to the conversation as always. A little different, obviously, because we're not recapping a game, but I think we'll hit on 3 themes as we always do. Number 1, the Giants have a quarterback decision to make. Tommy DeVito's played very well, but Tyrod Taylor is now eligible to return from injured reserve. We'll also get into the 5 opponents. Everybody's in the playoff hunt that the Giants are going to be going up against, and things we need to see in the final 5 games if the Giants want to continue their winning ways, as they have momentum on their side. They have won each of their last 2 games against the Commanders and the Patriots. But Howard, let's start with the quarterback situation. We heard Joe Schoen speak during the bye week, and he, I think, did a really nice job assessing the quarterback situation, and he made it known Tommy DeVito is the only healthy quarterback right now under contract for next season. Tyrod has an expiring contract. Daniel Jones, obviously, undergoing surgery. They don't know when he's going to return. So if you're weighing Tommy DeVito versus, let's assume Tyrod is healthy and able to come back from the rib injury, I think you have to take into consideration evaluating Tommy and the role that he could play next season on the depth chart.
Yeah, you do. You got 2 or 3 things you have to think about. You got to think about the really weird thing is that the Giants are not out of the playoff picture. So if they're even considering that, they have to consider like which guy do they think is going to give them a better chance to win. I'm not really sure how they're going to go about it. If it's me, try to ride the hot hand. Tommy's available. Tommy's healthy. As long as it doesn't get hurt, I mean, you have to try to keep playing with him. The other thing is, if you put Tyrod in, I know it was a rib injury. I know he's back, but if it's me, you're going to be a little tentative, thinking that if someone comes free, how you're going to get hit and what you're going to be taking on. And again, he's more mobile and he takes on a little more risk when he's out there playing. So I guess you stay with Tommy. I guess you try to figure it out, how much you can get out of him. And again, it depends on how much they value or devalue the opportunity or the chance or the outside chance that they could get in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Howard there, guys, simply because, going in, I'm saying to myself, well, Tommy's got the hot hand, so let's stick with him and see what he's got. And we're also seeing if he could be the guy for the future in terms of maybe he's going to be the number 2 quarterback next season, albeit that Daniel is healthy. But Howard brings out a good point. They're still alive in a playoff pit. As crazy as 4-8 might sound, and Howard was a former player. Players play, and if there is still light at the end of the tunnel, they want to still play for that opportunity to get in. And all of a sudden, momentum becomes a funny thing. They just won 2 games in a row. They had a bye week. Listen, they're playing a Packers team on Monday night. It's going to be Monday night, a Packers team that's just coming off a very, very impressive victory. So maybe they get revved up. And, listen, I don't think there's a bad decision. I think everybody's in love with the whole Tommy, Italian Tommy cutlets and all that business. My gut feeling today is you stick with Tommy. Listen, it doesn't hurt. You can easily make a switch if you feel nothing is going on, but I would stick with him. But again, as Howard says, if there's an opportunity to advance, you ain't out of it until you're out of it. So that's the card you play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, I agree with both of you. I mean, Coach Dable has made it very clear that they're going to put the best players out there and continue to try to win games until the very end of the season, regardless of the circumstances surrounding the team. But you're right, they are 2 games out of the playoffs. But one thing you got to keep in mind is Tommy has also, not only has he led the team to a couple of victories, but he's actually looked impressive doing it. I mean, he's got the last 2 games, 68 completion percentage, 69 completion percentage. He's thrown 6 touchdowns in the last 3 games. He's going out there, he's leading the offense. You can tell that his teammates are revolving around him and he's galvanizing the team. And not only that, but but he's got the fan base very excited and really into the team. I mean, of course, into the team, but really got, caring and rooting for this kid. And Tyrod, he is eligible to come off IR today. This week, and he might. And I understand you got to put the locker room, you got to try to put the guys out there that gives you the best chance of winning. But the way he's been playing, I don't see how you can say that might not be Tommy. And I know Tyrod is the backup quarterback. He was signed to be the backup quarterback, and I get that. But as both Russ and Howard and Lance, all three of you pointed to, he's got a chance. I mean, he's signed to a rookie contract. He's signed for 2 more years. He has a chance to earn that backup quarterback position. And as we've seen across the NFL this entire season, the backup quarterback position is a very, very important position. There have been, I think, 50-something different quarterbacks starting a game this year. So if Tommy gives you the best chance of winning and can also potentially lock down and give you confidence in your backup quarterback position on a rookie deal moving forward, that could be very valuable.
Yeah, and that was the reason. Go ahead, Howard. Yeah.
For a dose of reality for everybody, just so you know, these last few games are a lot like this season we just had. We just had last season with the last 2 games playing teams that are subpar. We won the games. We come out. We don't score a lot of points, but we win. Defense looks great. None of those teams are fighting for playoff wins or anything like that. If anything, they're fighting for the first pick in the draft. So we go out, we beat those guys. We have 2 wins in a row, almost 3. We're like, wow, we got a shot. Now we're going to play 4 teams that are all in the playoff hunt. And that's what our season's been like the entire year. We're playing teams that are in the playoff hunt. That's better defenses, that's better offenses. And I love Tommy. I do. The offensive line has been the thing that's been handicapping us the entire time. They've played better, again, against worser competition. Now you're about to get the cream of the crop, and you're going to see what's up. So,
well, that's
Tommy,
why
go ahead.
No, I completely agree with you, Howard. I mean, there's no doubt about it. The 5 teams that remain, it's 4 because they play the Eagles twice, all in the playoff hunt, and better teams than the Commanders and the Patriots. I think that's well documented based on the numbers and the eye test. And I think, as Matt was hitting on, both quarterbacks give you a good chance to go out, compete, and win football games. Tyrod's a polished vet. There's a reason why they brought him in. They brought him in to upgrade a backup quarterback position that had been an issue when Daniel went down previously. So if they choose to go back to him, I think the offense is in good hands. But I think Tommy hasn't given them a reason to say we need to put him to the sideline. Normally, an undrafted rookie comes in, he turns the ball over. Tommy hasn't done that. He's made relatively good decisions. So I think it makes the decision that much more challenging because sometimes younger quarterbacks, they panic, they don't handle adversity. He's done well in that department, whether the team has been scoring 30 points or scoring 13. So that's what I think the Giants coaching staff has to take into consideration. We can evaluate him while simultaneously having a chance to compete and win football games because of how he's conducted himself under center.
Not only has he not made mistakes, though, he hasn't forced the ball, interceptions but on the field. We kind of touched on this, the 3 of us last week. His teammates have rallied around him. His teammates have not only has Tommy developed confidence within himself. I didn't think Matt alluded to that, but the guys are rallying around him. They have confidence in Tommy. As crazy as it sounds, and you know how this works. You go back, you look at a schedule. The Giants could be saying to themselves, we're 4-8. Now we have Tommy. If we beat the Bills when we should have, if it wasn't for a mistake, if we beat the Jets when we should have, we'd be 6-6 right now. So their confidence can all of a sudden, maybe it's a little false or what, but it's real to them. They believe that they can do something. So listen, my gut, again, we're talking about it. I think we pretty much agree. You go with Tommy, and should there be a problem, then you have Tyrod. If Tyrod is ready to go, just because he's ready to come off injured list doesn't mean he's ready to go. That's a whole other question.
I'm just going to say one last time, don't get too far ahead of yourselves. You're about to see what real defenses look like that we're going to play against. It's not going to be the same thing. It's going to be guys coming off the edge that can actually get to the quarterback. There's going to be guys in the secondary that can actually cover There's not going to be like wide open lanes going all over the place. We saw it last night with Green Bay playing against Kansas City. It did not look like, oh, their guys just running free all over the field. They had a couple nice plays, a couple moments, but for the most part, the Patrick Mahomes running for his life. Kelsey almost quieted. That's what you're looking at going forward.
Well, you know what, Howard, is with what you're saying, and they are playing better defenses. So let me ask you, doesn't it pay for Dable and Shane and everybody to find out if Tommy DeVito can play against these better defenses moving forward, or at least give him a shot to do so?
It's not a Tommy thing. It's like they have to make a decision. The Dayball's really based upon the idea of, I want to win every game. If that's his view, then he's going to have to figure it out from there. I'm not saying Tommy's better. I'm not saying, Tyrod's better option. I'm just saying he has to figure it out from there. At that point, you got to know your limitations to your quarterback. You got to know the positives of your quarterback, and you got to know, okay, what's going to happen if he keeps getting hit? Because a lot of times when Tommy's getting sacked, Tommy's like moving around the pocket and not throwing the ball. In this case, playing this team, Green Bay, and the other teams, he's going to be getting sacked because they're getting to him, totally getting to him, and it's going to be a little different. So it's a different mentality. It's a different thing you got to take on. It's a different weight that's going to be on your back. I'm pulling for Tommy the whole way like everybody else. I'm pulling for the team the whole way like everybody else. But I have a reality check coming because I know what's coming down the road.
Yeah. Also, what's coming down the road, if I may add, there are 2 more games coming against the Eagles.
Yeah.
And, when we were looking at the schedule, a lot of people were saying,
night games.
Yeah.
I can't stand night games.
But maybe people were saying, I think we all were thinking, well, if the Eagles keep going the way they're going, they won't need these games. Well, the way it's looking now, the Eagles are going to need these games. So that's not going to make it an easy path for Tommy or Tyrod, or if it was Daniel, to get through. All of a sudden, it makes the Eagles that much more a formidable foe.
Yeah.
And in addition to the 2 games against Philly, I mean, as you guys pointed out earlier, all 3 of the other teams we're playing are fully in the playoff picture as well. I mean, we saw what the Packers did last night against the Chiefs. They're on fire. Jordan Love is looking like one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league over the last couple of weeks. And their defense has also been playing well. Rashawn Gary is really having a breakout season there. Each of the teams where the Giants are facing have at least one very, very talented pass rusher, as Howard was referring to. Rashawn Gary, Cameron Jordan with the Saints. I mean, we know about the Eagles defensive line. And then you have Aaron Donald with the Rams. And as well as Tommy has been playing, as I pointed out before, sacks have been his biggest Achilles heel. I mean, in all 3 of his starts, he's taken at least 5 sacks. And as Coach Dable pointed out after the game, on several occasions, not all those sacks were on the offensive line. Some of them were due to Tommy holding the ball a little bit too long. So as great as he has been playing, those great performances were against the Commanders and the Patriots, 2 teams who are fully out of the playoff picture. These next 5 weeks, if it is Tommy that's given a chance, really will go to show, whether or not the Giants have a potential QB2, or whether that's a position they might have to address in the offseason, or even bring Tyrod back.
And that's why I go back to, I think there's value to Russ's point. If you can remain competitive with Tommy DeVito, at least based on his performance, and now you're upping the caliber, it puts the Giants front office and the coaching staff in a better position to evaluate whether or not he should be in the future plans. The other thing that I think is important to highlight, as Matt was getting into it, not only are you seeing better defenses, you're also seeing better opposing quarterbacks, which means you're putting more stress on your own defense, where you're going to have to score more points. I mean, the Commanders, Sam Howell has had a nice season, but still nowhere near the same level of experience as Derek Carr, Matthew Stafford, some of these other guys. Patriots have had a revolving door of QBs. You're going up against more balanced teams, which means you need more out of your own offense, and you need your defense to make consistent stops. So I really think these next 4 opponents, it's twofold. You got to elevate really on all ends. It's not just about the quarterback. It's about, can the defense continue to play at the same level that we've seen? And can they get 9 takeaways in the last 2 games like they did? That's also a bit unrealistic, Howard, as you smirk, based on what we've seen them put forth.
It's more than unrealistic. I mean, The Packers are not going to turn the ball over that much. The Saints, maybe. The Rams probably won't. The Eagles definitely not going to turn the balls over that much. So that's not going to be part of the game as you go forward. So you're going to need that team that you've been hoping for and pulling for, Tommy or whoever, and that offensive line, which is going to be the question, to play better for the last few weeks, just so you can be competitive. I hazard to say win, but be competitive. At the beginning of the season, I was saying like, well, if they get 7 wins, it's going to be a good year considering the teams are going to play and the caliber of the opponents they're going to play all year. And somebody goes, oh, they should get at least 10 wins. I'm like, one more time. If they get 7 wins, that'd be a big year for them. So they're like kind of sitting on the edge of that now. But the problem is, as they come down the stretch, everybody's playing for the playoffs, and it's not they're going to get the Giants their best shot. They're going to be trying to get healthy. They're going to be trying to, score a lot of points, trying to build confidence in their teams. They're going to be trying to shut offenses down. They're going to be trying to look for shutouts and anything else they can. All that stuff builds confidence in your team as you're going down the road, so you can say like, hey, we got hot at the right time. And the Giants, unfortunately, are going to be the team they're going to be trying to get right against.
I think also, listen, what everybody's talking about, your point, when you want Lance, a balanced attack, on both sides. Listen, that's what's everybody been talking about all season long? Complementary football. Well, it's got to be more than complementary against these teams because they're better teams. It's you don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure this out. The commit. I don't want to say the commitment, but they just have to be better than they've been. We've seen some improvement the last 2 games because they won, but now you're going to have to see a big time improvement against this caliber of opponents.
Well, because also they've got to score touchdowns at a better rate if they want to compete with the opponents we're talking about. And once again, I think alleviate the defensive side of the ball because, and this goes back to what Howard is talking about. And it's not that you want to discredit the 2 wins. It's you want to look at the context. Well, how did they beat the Patriots, guys? They scored 10 points. And those 10 points came off of 2 takeaways, right? They weren't marching down the field 75, 80 yards. So you have to take that into consideration. How did they beat the Commanders? Okay, the offense gave you 24. They did a nice job moving the ball, but you also got an Isaiah Simmons pick 6. So your offense wasn't responsible for 31. You got to look for things in the styles in which you win football games. And Matt, I know this is not college football, so brownie points and style points don't matter. We don't have to worry about a committee determining your fate. But I do think the way you talked about Green Bay earlier is a Packers team. Jordan Love, you were alluding to this, 8 touchdowns, no interceptions in the last 3 games. They have also defeated. This is where context comes into play. They beat the Chargers. They beat the Lions on Thanksgiving. They beat the Chiefs. I think we would all agree, though something tells me Howard will not, that those 3 teams are pretty good offenses in the NFL. So what the Packers have defeated, Matt, over the last 3 weeks, this is not the bottom tier of the NFL. This is almost the creme de la creme, and this is what's coming now to MetLife Stadium.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I looked at the schedule after the bye a couple of weeks ago, and I thought, Rams, Saints, Packers, all 3 of those winnable games. Obviously, a lot has changed in the last couple of weeks. The Packers, I mean, what they did to the Lions on Thanksgiving, the Lions who went into that game as one of the top teams in the NFC, potentially one of the top teams in the NFL, and they pretty much embarrassed them on Thanksgiving in their home stadium, which was very impressive. And then last night, they welcomed Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs, who were, with a win, would have put them in, I believe, the 1 seed for the AFC, and they basically shut Mahomes down, which was incredible. I mean, believe it was Howard that was talking about teams getting hot at the right time. Well, the Packers are surging right now. They are playing their best football by far of the entire season, and that's what we have come into MetLife Stadium a week from today. That is not going to be an easy challenge for either side of the ball. The Packers offense is Jordan Love, as you said, 8 touchdowns, no picks in the last couple of games. He's playing the best football of his career. The defense is playing amazing. The Giants on both sides of the ball are going to have to step up big time, and that's going to be no easy task against this Packers team.
Well, the good thing about the Giants is they're playing really good defense right now, and I think that's going to be the thing that will be the only thorn for the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers plays a lot of great offenses, but their defenses that they've been playing against haven't been the best defenses in the league, so that's what they're going to be looking at. The Giants, if Big Dex comes back, if Dexter's healthy and Dexter can play, That'll be a problem for the Packers, having Dexter in the middle, having Thibodeau off the edge, and other guys trying to get involved in the game. We have decent corners that can play and cover some of their receivers. Love will be off his point a lot. He'll have to move around. Without Dex, it's just try to get pressure by committee. You're bringing safeties, you're bringing corners, you're trying to rush linebackers. You need to have Dexter there. If Dexter is there, it will change the flow of the defense, and they will be excited to play against the Packers, and it'll give the Packers a harder time. I'm not saying they're going to shut them down, but they'll be able to get after them.
I think also the bye week, everybody can have their own opinion. When should it happen? But you know what? When you get a bye week at this juncture of a season, and I think the Giants, there were plenty of walking wounded, in particular, when you're talking about Dexter, I think it came at the right time, and having these guys coming back off the bye week, off a 2-game winning streak, albeit against lesser opponents, they're healthier. And, going into this last stretch against these 5 opponents, they're going to need to be healthier.
Yeah.
Russ, it's interesting you framed it that way, because I think some people would look at it, when you win, do you not want to be interrupted, right? Do you want to have the ability to continue? Would it have been better off to have the bye a little bit earlier? I think you could look at it maybe both sides of the equation from that standpoint.
Oh, yeah. I agree with that. The logic is, everybody debates when is a good time. You don't want to stop when you're hot. Football, though, is a different beast than all the other sports, because even though you could be winning, you got guys battered and bruised. It's a long season. It's a long schedule. And I just think it's, in particular for the Giants at this juncture, like we were talking about, they did beat the Commanders. They did beat the Patriots. It's not like they were beating the Eagles and the Cowboys. So, you know what? They could have used the rest, and now they come back healthy.
Yeah, you need all hands on deck. The thing about football is, like, you go into the season planning for all your guys to start. I think it's with every sport, but in football, it's probably paramount, because you don't have the same quality guy usually that guy's backup, or especially offensive line. That guy's probably playing 2 positions. He doesn't have a natural position, and it gets a little rough when guys are not on the field.
Yeah, we're talking about the quarterback. Tyrod possibly coming back. We don't know about Darren Waller. That would certainly be a benefit, of some artillery for him, Tommy, to have, should Waller be back in the lineup.
That's true.
And I was just going to bring that up, because if we're talking about elevating the offense, I'm with you. If you could give, whether it be Tommy or Tyrod Taylor, an additional weapon, when we're talking about not just better defenses, but better offenses you're going up against, that could help the Giants get out of this bottom area of the scoring offense territory. Because, Matt, this is a team that's averaging 13.3 points per game. Now, believe it or not, based on the Patriots getting shut out by the Chargers, the Giants are no longer in the basement. They're now 31st. New England has moved to 32nd. I'm not trying to make light of the situation. It's just, it is what it is. So, can Darren Waller, and not to put it on one guy, because it's unfair to put it on one guy, but we have been talking about him, man, in previous seasons, the inability to stay on the field, stay healthy. We've seen some flashes out of Waller, but if they could get him back for the final 5 games, here's now somebody that Green Bay, the Saints, the Rams, the Eagles have to account for, in addition to Saquon Barkley. You're talking about another game-changing weapon.
Oh, 100%. I mean, Darren Waller was brought in essentially to be the team's number 1 wide receiver, the number 1 option in the pass game. And while it wasn't, I would say, the whole season may not have, looked like that, he was really starting to pick it up the last couple of weeks before getting hurt. I believe the Commanders game the week before he got injured, where he had the best game of his season, almost 100 yards, his first touchdown of the year. He was really starting to get going. He looked like he had great chemistry with Tyrod in that game. Getting back would obviously provide a humongous boost to the offense. And another name who we have not even discussed, who's been hurt and could potentially, and I say potentially because we'll see how he performs, but Evan Neal. Evan Neal's been out the last few games. He's the starting right tackle, and I get it. He has struggled at times this season, but the Giants need to see whether or not they have a right tackle for the future in Evan Neal. Obviously, he was a top 7 draft pick last year, only in the second year of his rookie deal, and have a lot of hope for him to be able to continue to develop and really lock down that right tackle position for the future. But I mean, he needs to get back on the field and sort of show it over these last few weeks. Otherwise, I don't know if the front office can have a ton of confidence going into the offseason, just locking him in as the right tackle in 2024.
Well, Joe Shane pretty much acknowledged that, Matt, last week, speaking with the media. It hasn't been about a year for Evan Neal. And yeah, he does need to show more. And, against these next 5 teams and these next 5 games would be a good time to start showing it. Yeah, you're right about that. Also, you talking about Waller in the lineup, it just opens up things for example, well, if we got to worry about Darren Waller, and then now we got to concentrate on Hyatt, so it all of a sudden makes things there. If there are more weapons for Tommy to deal with, that means there are more weapons that the opposing defenses have to worry about.
Hyde and Slayton are going to be the weapons. I think Waller coming back, he could add to it. Everybody, even Wendell out there catching those short passes and trying to turn them into bigger plays. As far as Neal goes, Neal's been hurt basically his whole career, so his health is going to be the most paramount thing. Yep. If it's me and I'm Neal, you gave the team almost 7 or 8 games on a bad ankle, and then you hurt your other ankle. Like, you have to make a decision. If they're talking about, well, he's got to play better, don't go out until you're healthy. I mean, I know you want him on the field, but you got to start thinking about your own career at that point. When guys are always questioning you when you're banged up, or questioning you when you're like, I remember when Thomas, his first year and a half or so, he wasn't playing all that well, and everybody was going after him. The guy was playing on an ankle that needed surgery. No one knew about it. So after the season, he gets surgery. He comes back. He starts to play a little bit better. He's not moving well. And people are like, well, they got to figure out if we're going to keep Thomas. He's all pro. So I'm not saying Neal's going to be an all pro player, but you got to have your guys healthy and whatever it takes for him to get healthy. Like, he tweaked his knee last year. This year it's the ankle. Then he gets that one kind of better, starts to play better in a game, and tweaks his other ankle. So health is a big thing. Health and availability, that's, affects all the players. It's affecting our quarterback. It's affecting our tight end. It's affecting a lot of our offensive linemen and some of our D linemen as well.
Like I said, the bye week came at the right time. It gave you a chance to get healthier.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and Howard has been bringing up the play of the offensive line, and we're talking about the sacks that Tommy DeVito has taken. The reality is, Giants quarterbacks have been sacked 69 times this season, and that's never a number that you want to throw out under any circumstances. So whether it's Tyrod Taylor, whether it's Tommy DeVito, that risk is always there. But that is an area, whether Evan Neal is on the field or not, that they're going to have to clean up because, as Matt mentioned, Rashawn Gary has been playing excellent football. He's proven to be a game wrecker. He ruined Thanksgiving for the Lions. He was in Jared Goff's face all throughout the contest. And, you look at Cam Jordan as well. He is somebody that has proven he can do damage. Aaron Donald, the Eagles don't have 1, they don't have 2, they have an entire defensive front. So this offensive line, and they understand that. They know every week is a challenge. And Howard, you can attest to that from your playing days. There is no picnics. There's no off weeks. Even if you go against the lower caliber teams, you're always going to be challenged because those guys get paid and those guys know their job security is not guaranteed. So it's not as if there's going to be a rude awakening, but you do have players that are in the playoff hunt, that are motivated, that are hungry. And we're really going to see whether or not this line could do a good job to help Tommy DeVito, if he still assumes the starting job, to Howard take those chances down the field. Because you were talking about Jalen Hyatt. The one thing that was noticeable about that Patriots game, and I think a lot of fans noticed this, he was not hesitating trying to go for the home run with Jalen Hyatt. And Hyatt has great ability with the geography of the field. So you want to see more of that moving forward.
Yeah, you do want to see more of that moving forward, but also think about this. I know we're talking about sacks. Daniel was getting sacked basically because there was a free-for-all. Then Tyrod was the subject of the same kind of sacks. Tommy's not getting sacked under the same pretenses. Tommy's just holding on to the ball because he doesn't want to make a mistake down the field. I think Tyrod did that too later. Started to go on it's like, hey, look, if I don't turn it over, we still have a chance. And that leads to some sacks. Like, they have some time, they're looking, they don't see the guy, they try to make the scramble, they can't get out, and they're still in the pocket. So they waited to be in the pocket the entire time. So you can't just throw it down the field because there's intentional grounding. So that's kind of causing some of Tommy's sacks. It's not so much that, when coach says it's not always the offensive line, It's him holding on to the ball. He doesn't see the guy he needs to see right away. And if he doesn't see him, he doesn't throw the ball.
Well, the bottom line is those negative plays need to be eliminated. Whether it's the quarterback holding onto the ball, whether it's the offensive line, we could point in 100 different directions. They can't afford to
Lance,
have that.
there are two different negative plays, Lance. You can get him to throw the ball anyway. If he throws the ball anyway and it gets a turnover, then that's a real negative play. What he's doing is preventing turnovers by not just throwing the ball into. He threw it one time in the 3 games I've seen him play in. One time he threw it an ill-advised throw. And he was running to the sideline. He was trying to throw it out of bounds, but the DB broke up so hard on the ball, he got to the ball before the ball could get out of bounds, and he knocked it out of bounds. Outside of that, he's not thrown the ball. Coach is like, hey, if you can, get out of the pocket and get rid of the ball so we don't lose yardage. By the time he can find his receiver, if it's not there, the second look, he's trying to get out. He's usually breaking out, or he's never done these spin out and go outside and try to break containment. He's always gone up the middle of the field, and that's what causes a sack. But at the same time, it's not because, he's just not throwing the ball. If he can't see it, he's not releasing it down the field. He's not putting it in jeopardy. That's what he's doing. That's, it looks like a lot of sacks, but 4 or 5 sacks under those circumstances are a lot better than 8 and 10 sacks in a game and 15 quarterback hits. And that's not what he's getting. That's not what the offensive line's getting up. That's not what the offensive line has been giving up since Pugh's back.
Sure, or better than throwing 2 interceptions, to your point, if he just gets rid of the football for the sake of getting rid of the football. All I'm pointing out is
his hands outside trying to throw it and someone swipes it out of his hand. Like that part of the game is eliminated because he will not put it in. He hasn't put it in jeopardy.
Exactly. But what I'm taking it to the next level is, and Matt, I'll bring you back into the conversation when I say negative plays. And Howard, your point is well taken, whether the intent is good, which is what you explained, okay? Hold on to the football, don't throw an interception. When a 1st and 10, though, becomes 2nd and 15, the intent may have been great, but it still puts you in a precarious spot for the remainder of the drive. And Matt, that's what we saw against New England, which once again has to be avoided against the caliber of opponents coming up.
Oh, for sure. And I don't know the exact percentage, but I believe the percentage of drives that resulted or that had a sack on them this season across the NFL that resulted in a touchdown was somewhere in the single digits. Like, it is very low. And throughout the season, it's been tough to score a touchdown if you take a sack, which that is the one thing that, Tommy has not done the best of over the last couple of weeks. But I do want to point out, just to Howard's point, that against the Patriots before the bye, that was the first time that I think we really saw Tommy start to take some shots downfield, and especially to Jalen Hyatt. I mean, Hyatt ended up with 109 yards, the most of his rookie season. Okay. 3 of those were over 20 yards. 2 of them were deep shots down the field that Tommy made a great throw and Jalen made a great catch, getting his feet in on the sideline before falling out of bounds. Those are the first times we really saw Tommy take those shots down the field, and they paid off. I mean, he didn't turn the ball over. He had another great game, another game with a passer rating over 100. And, I get that, needing the time to take those shots down the field could result in sacks, but with where the team is now, you want to see Tommy and the whole offense, you want to see them take more of those shots down the field, more of those deep passes, whether it's to Hyatt, Darius Slayton, Waller, if he comes back, whoever it is. So I am with Howard that I don't mind some of these sacks if it means that they are trying to push the ball downfield, which we really haven't seen the offense do much throughout the entire season prior to the game against the Patriots.
And I appreciate you disagreeing with Lance. Thank you.
No, but
I'm not even disagreeing with you, Howard, but go ahead, Russ. Yes.
No, Brian Dable pretty much has acknowledged that, after the last game. Listen, we have seen this is part of the growth that everybody wants to continue to see and find out if it's there in Tommy DeVito. He has made good decisions. He has not forced the ball. That's been all positives. Now, the next step of the growth is, okay, continue to make those smart decisions. And part of those smart decisions are also being able to get rid of the ball and not take as many sacks as he's been taking. That's all part of the growth process. I mean, listen, he's a raw rookie. He started the season on the practice squad. So that's all part of the growth.
I appreciate it, but I'll remind both of you that 2nd and 15 is a lot better than short field for the other team when you turn it over. And that's
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody would
I know,
dispute
but
that.
I know, but that's what we're looking at. If he can't see somebody, don't you can try to throw it out of bounds or you get it tipped to the line. He's not the tallest man on the planet, so you got to protect the ball at all costs. And I think 4 or 5 sacks is nothing is not great, but it's not the end of the world. If it's 2nd and 15, whatever, as long as you still have possession, you can put them back and let the defense have a chance.
And as long as you keep your team within striking distance to win a football game. And that did happen against New England. But as you also brought up, Howard, as you emphasized, okay, and I think I'm quoting you appropriately, and hopefully the rest of the panel will agree, you pointed out better competition in the final 5 games.
Mm-hmm.
You can't rely on 9 takeaways from your defense.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, I think you would agree the scoring has to increase somehow. And avoiding 2nd and 15 is a good way to help that cause if you have to put together drives where you have to go 70 some odd yards.
But I appreciate what you're saying, but you're asking something that you know doesn't exist. That's why I'm like laughing at you. If you know that they're going 2nd and 15 against lesser competition, but they're protecting the ball and they're punting the ball away to give the defense a chance to try to quote unquote get a 3 and out or something so they can get the ball back on a shorter field, that's what you actually want. When you say that you got to increase the scoring without turnovers, the best way to do it is get the ball on a shorter field. The only way to do that is to, play field position as best you can and hope that you can get, enough protection, hit a long ball to Hyde, hit a long ball to Slayton, and maybe one of those guys breaks a tackle and goes in for a touchdown. It's not, we're not witnessing great play offensively, and we know this because we're not scoring any points. And the points we scored, even with Tommy, most of the points they've scored has been on short fields.
Sure.
So, if you get the ball back at the 25 and you got to start from the beginning, hey, just don't turn the ball over on your side of the 50. That's the biggest point. Punt the ball as far down as you possibly can. Defense shut them down and keep moving them down until you get a shorter field, and maybe you'll have a shot. So that's what we're really looking at. We're not looking at anything overbearing or creative or something outside the box. We're looking at, okay, got to play smart football. You got to keep it dirty. You got to keep it muddy. And hopefully your muddy game will beat the other team. The idea that you're going to have explosive plays every game, that they're going to be able to throw the ball down the field every game, is great. We'll love it too. But the biggest thing is, and I mean the biggest thing is, do not turn the ball over. Every series that you have the ball offensively ends in a kick. Whether it's an extra point or a field goal, it has to end in a kick. If you don't do it that way, you're going to see blowouts, and we don't want any blowouts for the team. We don't want anything that looks like when we come on here the next following hangout saying like, man, they didn't do X, Y, and Z. Like, and that you got to talk. I talk about it in the most real way I can, because that's what I'm looking at on the field. We're talking about, hey, they're not scoring any points. Oh, they need to do this. No, they need to not turn the ball over, give themselves an opportunity to try to get into a position to score points. They're like, oh, when they get to the red zone, if they get to the red zone, try as hard as you can. If not, kick a field goal, come back, try it again. You got to continue to move forward. Don't go backwards. And you'll go backwards if you start putting the ball at risk, trying to get rid of the ball so you don't take a sack. Because throwing the ball out of a well when you can't see where it's going and who's out there, that's disaster.
Well, and that's why we saw that result with the Cowboys, and you're going to go up against the Eagles twice, and you certainly can't shorten the field for them, or else you're going to ask for trouble, even though Philly is coming off a rough performance against the San Francisco 49ers. All right, we'll leave it at that. Latest edition of the Giants Hangout. It is presented by Crestron, a proud partner of the New York Giants, as the Giants get back on the field, and they will play Monday night against the Green Bay Packers to kick off this 5-game stretch. So that means Tuesday, we will have the next edition of our version of the Giants Hangout, as we'll recap that game and also start to look ahead to the next contest. Lance Medow, Russ Salzberg, Howard Cross, and Citak, with you here on Giants.com, the mobile app, as well as your favorite podcast platform that you can stay locked to see the latest edition of the Giants Hangout.